Welcome to Mind Over Matter, where we feature young Jamaicans who are shooting for the stars. I'm your host, Margaret Boyne. My guest is only 24 years old, but his journey from the inner city of Maxfield Avenue to a beacon of hope in his community is a testament to the power of perseverance. Despite facing numerous challenges, including violence, gang wars, the loss of loved ones, he refused to give up on his dreams. He's a past student of Calabar High School. He holds a bachelor's degree in management studies and is presently pursuing a master's degree in human resource development. He shares his inspiring story. My guest is Shamar McGrowder. Welcome to Mind Over Matter, Shamar.
Oh, thank you for having me, Miss Margaret.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to talking to you, man.
Yes, it should be an interesting conversation.
Yes, your story is one of perseverance and pain. It's about overcoming challenges. You're from Maxfield Avenue.
Yes,
You know,
indeed.
Maxfield Avenue is a tough inner city. Tell me about growing up in Maxfield. Tell me what was life like?
As I said to everybody, I did enjoy my childhood. It was a fun one because I had the opportunity to run up and down on the road, as you know, every child should experience. I had friends who I had to play on the courtyard with, so I did enjoy it. But you know, in everything in life, there's always a negative side to it, and the negative side to this was the fact that I was surrounded by violence. It affected me mentally, and you know, just being in such a space, I struggled with hunger issues. I struggled with managing that, and to a next extent, I did not get the opportunity to go to certain places, especially, you know, I like football. So a football commission would be playing in a specific area and I would not get the opportunity to go there. And of course, I felt away back then, but as I got older, I understand why my mother kind of, you know, keep me back out, keep me away from certain areas. And, you know, this is me now.
Mm-hmm. So what? So you used to like hear gunshot at night and regularly and all of that?
You know, this is actually fun because while I was growing up, I used to post every night I hear a shot. I would post gunshots in the dark like a sweet serenade because it was like a music at the time,
Wow.
like every
Mm-hmm.
single night. And you know, from once somebody see my post, they know what's going on because it was like a musical instrument every single night.
Mm-hmm. So how you think that affected you though, as a young man?
I I I think it did affect me in such a way as I said to you, I had mental it affected me mentally because I remember at nights I was up doing SBA and studying, and you know sometimes I got so frustrated I just pack my things up and just go to bed immediately because it frustrated me because for one I was one individual, I as early as possible I wanted something out of life, and you know, and just being in that area, it was affecting me. Like I was saying to myself, I seriously can't bother with this anymore. And I think I think it also had a positive impact because I was one who I was wiser than the average age group, my age group. So
Mm-hmm.
I use these things as a way of, you know, pushing me, said, I need to get out. I
Mm-hmm.
I tried, even though I was surrounded by all this, I did not allow it to affect me as much as it should have.
Mm-hmm.
I did take some positive from it and use it to empower myself.
So you felt education was a way out from early?
Yes, I felt it was the way out because my mother was an educated woman, even though because herself did not get the opportunity to go to college. So after
Mm-hmm.
finishing high school, she had to go straight into work. And she was educated and she understood the value of education because she's a reader. So she tried to always you know, force me into reading. I did not like reading. I was more
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yes.
I was
Uh,
more mathematically inclined. So
mhm.
I hated reading. I used to skip through, especially the book pages that had the pictures. I used to just look at the pictures and skip through the books. But she forced me and she did not give up. and ensuring that I had a proper education. I had an older brother. He's not so inclined, and my mother realized my potential from very early, so she sent me to school early as possible. And it was like I was her investment. So she tried to ensure that I get every single form of education, as much as though she did not have it. Every single book that was recommended for me in school, she ensured that she spent her money on it. And that's the next thing. I as a young boy, I did not own any form of games, and I understood why. Yeah, I remember she had a saying back then, right? So I used to cry about the fact that I did not have games and gadgets and all that, but she said, "I gave you something no thief or robbers can take away from you, and that's an education."
So, what primary school you went to?
I went to St. Peter Calabar Primary. It's off Waltham Park, and it's still within that inner city.
Still within your area, yeah. So you passed for your GSAT for Calabar, and tell me how that institution shaped or reshaped your life.
Well, actually, it did indeed was a turning point in my life. As mentioned before, St. Peter Clever was still in the inner city area, so I did not get to experience something outside of what I was used to. I was already used to. So when I went to Calabar, I was surrounded by teachers who have been through the education system and understood life. I was also surrounded by students, boys, I should say, who were from different backgrounds, whether it be rich, poor, or middle class. It was just all persons from different backgrounds in one space. And so I got the opportunity to understand or get to experience life and a different level than what I was used to. I get to connect with students who were already, making money from a very young age. So I then had to live by the core values at Calabar. We had a set of core values, and I think they implemented they indoctrinated us into that way of life. And I had to change the way, because I had to change the way I used to talk. I had to change the way I used to, operate or behave. And, the next thing was the fact that I had to join Cadet. As I always tell people, it was my mother's decision. I preferred football, and she blackmailed me into going into Cadet because she understand I was a rude kid. Even though I was still educated, I would still give trouble. So she put me into Cadet because she believe it will
discipline
for me. Being in Cadet was basically one of the best decisions for me. I have no regrets. I had to learn mental strength. I had to learn physical and emotional strength. And I think it is what really changed me or shaped me into the man I am today.
And you did very well at Calabar.
Yes, I did actually.
And you decided now you wanted to go to university. So where the money would have come from, how did that come about?
And I'm glad you asked that question, because I remember when I was leaving Calabar and I went through a depressing state, because at that point I started to wonder, what am I going to do with my life? You understand? And I remember coming to school in the mornings, and I sat under the tree, and I remember bursting into tears because I did not know what else to do. But I remember the transition period between Calabar and university. I was reading this book called Freedom from the Ties That Binds by Guy Finley. It is one of the books that I read that I hold close to my heart, because it helps me to understand self-liberation, having a strong mindset and all of that. So I became a power force after leaving Calabar. My mind, I became strong. Like I was very strong mentally. I started calling myself the Great Shamar, because at that point I believe
a different mindset.
That was a different mindset. Because at Calabar, I wasn't the most prolific student, but because we had so much at high school, you everything was thrown at you. You had the chance to play football. You had the chance to get involved in a lot of clubs, and I had to give time for those things as well as doing my academic work. But here at university, I understand that you will not get the opportunity to play in the sports. No, it's just book work, and I had to change my mindset. And how will I be able to sit down and actually study and read for the degree? Because I hated reading. And I had to change everything about my mentality. And I remember when it comes down to finances, I worked with NHTA the summer before. And that's how I got the opportunity to pay my first semester fee. And I remember working in the office one evening, and my hands were tired because I was typing so much and I had a deadline to meet. And I remember I was about to stop, and I said to myself, "Boy, you have a tuition to pay. Continue working." And I stood there until around 6 o'clock in the evening before I left because it was the final day. And after submitting the thing, I said, "Yes, I know we'll have some money to pay for my tuition." And it was that first payment I used to fund my first semester. The second one, as I said to everybody, I'm not a fan of taking loans. So I tried to draw off money from every single family. Well, not every single family member, just a subset of family
Whoever
members.
could help.
Whoever could help. So my mother and my brother paid for the second semester. In second year, it was my mother again, and I got a part bursary that kind of cut the tuition, and my mother and my brother again did fund my my tuition for second year. I also got a next bursary in third year, first semester, and I did fund myself in the last year because I was on the Guild Council and I did some passive income work, and I did get the opportunity to finish my university without having any debt or a loan to my trust me, it was a struggle, but we had to do it.
But you were doing well, and then things took a turn in your second year. Tell us about that. What happened?
It was in my third year.
Third year, right?
Yeah, because I did an extra semester.
Tell us what happened then.
All right, it was gang violence in the same area, Maxfield. I was living there in second semester, and I remember I woke up the Friday morning to the dreadful news, and I was in complete shock. I did not shed any tears. I was still in shock. But what changed everything for me when I heard the words from my mother? Because I used to my mother being a positive kind of person. I was the one who used to be negative to say, I can't bother, and she was like, you can do it, continue this and that. And to hear her say, I can't bother with life no more, breaks my heart, because I've never seen my mother in such a state before. And that's when I realized this had actually happened.
So tell us what had actually happened.
My cousin was murdered. And it was a turning point. I became numb. I could not feel any form of emotions. I was not happy. I was not sad. And I remember, as I said before, I grew up with anger issues. And during that period, I could not feel any form of anger. It was a period I went a whole year without feeling any form of anger. No matter what somebody said to me to piss me off, I just stroll along and ignore what they're saying because I was completely numb. And I think that was basically change. I'm not fully healed from the fact that it happened, but I use it as a way of keep pushing me, because if I'm one, because I grew up as the person in the family they are looking towards to bring change. And if I'm going to stop, then there will no longer be any change. So I use that as I have a lot of burdens because I am the most I should say I'm the first from the family to actually earn a college degree. So I have a lot of burdens. I have cousins who are looking up, younger cousins who are actually looking up to me. And I always and that's the next thing. From I was a very young boy, I was carrying these burdens because it's not that they put all the burdens on me. I
Right,
understand
but
from a very
you
young
feel pressured.
I felt pressured because I believe I will I believe at the time I am going to be the change for this family. So every single thing I do, I try to model it in such a way that my younger cousins would see that, yo, I am actually doing good. You should do good as well. So I had to carry these burdens, and I'm a strong boy, so I did put these burdens on my back myself, and I walk with them with faith.
But apart from your cousin being killed, you had seen other persons that you know, friends, die as well.
Yeah, yes, actually. As I said, I'm from one of the most violent communities here in Jamaica, and I've seen my childhood friends being recruited. I've seen some of them gone to jail or prison. I've seen some of them being killed. I remember I was in seventh grade because I was always the younger out of the crew. I was in seventh grade and I remember coming home from exam in December. Well, no, it wasn't December, it was in June. I remember it was an exam period. And I heard that one of my childhood friends were killed on the next road. He was around and police killed him at 16 years old. And at that point, I realized that it could have been me. It could have been any other young boy in the community. And apart from that incident, I've been there and I've watched multiple young individuals being killed by either gunmen or police. And this was one of my reasons for always walking with my ID, because at the end of the day, you have no identity when you're in the community to the police or government. So I used to walk with my ID, just said, yo, I'm a good youth, I'm going to school. And I remember I remember watching some of the friends being recruited, and I remember it's something I always hear them say was, yo, Shamar, you do the book work, allow us to do the badness. I hold that close because it's not that they were all of a negative.
Right, they respected you.
They respected me in such a way, and they respect the fact that I was taking my education seriously.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the point where I made when I said that mothers gave up on their young boys, and that was one thing I had to be grateful for. My mother did not give up on me, and I've watched my childhood friends' mother decide they gave up on them, and they had no other choice but to turn to the violence, because after being recruited, they know of someone who is guiding them as the Dan, who would give them money for whatever reasons. So what they could not get from their mothers, they would get from the area leaders. And I learned from a very young age from my mother, of course, to live without what we don't have. So if she doesn't have it, and if my aunt doesn't have it, I had to live without it.
To do without. And that's important. That's an important message, boy.
It is. And I learned, because I remember my brother and I had similar characteristics, because we learned to live without what we don't have, or our mother could not afford. And even up to this day, I do not have the strength to even ask my brother for anything, because that's how we were raised. And he had to beg me, even in my university life, he had to beg me to ask him for things.
Yeah.
But it was just the way I
satisfied with what you have.
satisfy what I have. Even though he's my brother, I
Mhm.
was afraid to even say, yo, bro, I need this.
Yes.
I and I learned to live a meaningful lifestyle
Mhm.
without having expensive things or having
Mhm.
things to satisfy my wants because they are not
Mhm.
needs.
Did it affect your grades in university when you had to face your cousin dying?
Actually my cousin did not affected me because
Okay.
it did not affect my grades, I should say. It
Mm-hmm.
affected me mentally, but it did not affect my grades
Mm-hmm.
because at that point I actually, because it was during that time I was going to run for guild election as well,
Mm-hmm.
the guild council, and I remember I was planning to give up. I was planning to give up, and I remember having a friend who said to me, "If you give up on these and throw all your university goals out the window, you're going to throw all the sacrifices your mother has made." And I had to look at that and I had to look at that saying, and it motivated me to just continue going. I actually did within the semester my cousin murdered. I actually did. It was one of my best semesters in terms of academics. So I went on the dean's list that
Mm-hmm.
year because it was that moment I decided I must do good. I must get out of this area
Mm-hmm.
and I must become something in life.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent it was one of, as I said before, it was one of my best performance in university academically. And I won
Mm-hmm.
the election that year because I remember doing 6 courses and I was managing my own campaign that year. But it was just I had no emotions. I was just focused on myself to just continue doing good and continue making an impact no matter what. I was
Mm-hmm.
motivated and I just wanted to get things out of the way.
But
But
Shamar, you also got an opportunity to move on campus out of the ghetto. How did that come about?
all right, yes, it did come about. But I had connections with, well, I was always connected with Chancellor Hall, but I
Mm-hmm.
remember it was for the guild elections. I had to move on campus. I connected with the hall chairman at the time, and he asked me to move on campus so that the hall could give me a full support during the election.
Mm-hmm.
But after I won, I was planning to go back, and he said, "No, you can actually stay because I understood your situation, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to go back to where you." And I stood there for I stayed there for until the summer
Mm-hmm.
when the new semester was about to start. And even though I was still the commuters rep, I tell people that I'm the most residential commuters rep the Guild will ever find because I live on campus while being the commuting students representative. But they understood the situation and they gave me the opportunity to stay on campus because they knew what was going on back home. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
live on campus while being the commuting students. All right. So my youth development journey basically started just in sixth form,
Mm-hmm.
right? I had finished cadet that year, and I was not a part of any other clubs or anything, but I was introduced to sociology as a discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I became a sociologist in my mind. Uh,
Yeah.
I, I started reading more. I
Mm-hmm.
started to understand why the system in why I started to understand the different systems in society. I started to understand why persons behave the way they behave. So I became an empathetic kind of person where I tried to put myself in others' shoes and understand where they are coming from,
Mm-hmm.
or try to understand things from a different perspective than what I have in my mind. So I started to understand youth and their behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And I went into youth development because I wanted to see, I know where I'm coming from. I'm from a area where there's violence. So I
Mm-hmm.
understand that youths actually do have potential. And I wanted to get into that field to see how best I can make an impact, or best I can influence students to actually, our youth individuals to actually realize their potential or realize their purpose, and how best they can, capitalize on these opportunities and capitalize on the offerings that I'm willing to provide them. So I tried my best to help or give motivational speeches to students or youth who are in position are situations I was in before.
Similar.
Yes, and I try my best for them to realize that there's actually a way out. So that was really my reason for getting into youth development, because it actually brings me fulfillment to know that I'm able to help these students to actually realize their full potential.
So you graduated with an honors degree in marketing.
Well, not marketing, management studies.
Management studies. Oh, tell me about that interest now. Why management studies?
And why management studies? And if you even look at it, everything that I do has to deal with people and management or development. I went into management studies because I actually applied for marketing, because I do understand marketing to an extent.
Okay.
But I wanted to go into management studies for two reasons. I'm a people person, so I wanted to be able to manage. A part of management is to, empower and lead people. So I wanted to go into that side of management. But then I look at management on a second perspective and said, I want to understand all aspects of business. So because I have aspirations to become a business owner, of course. So I wanted to understand all aspects of business, accounting, marketing, whatever it might be, human resource, everything. So that was really my reason for going into management studies, to be honest.
You're presently doing your master's, and you're also working at Jane. Tell me a little about working at Jane, no?
I mean, of course, you don't want to give too much, but I think Jane is really a fun place. I'm actually in the HR department.
Okay.
And it's one of the best work experience I've ever had. It's, as I said, it's HR, so we have to bring the vibes to the Jane. We have to bring the motivation. So we do some form of engagements, and it is fun to know that you are able to help employees reaches their full potential in terms of working. You bring that level of motivation where employees started to realize, say, I can actually do this. And it's a fun experience at Jane. We have a wonderful court, and I have to give I have to say, I must commend the Jane people and culture. They are a wonderful set of people.
So how do you balance those school and work?
Well, it's pretty easy, I should say, because HR, human resource development, is a part-time program. So it's actually in the evenings. Okay. So what I will do, I will definitely I leave work at 4:15, and by the time by 5 o'clock I'm home, get at least talk to my friends for 1 hour, then head to class by 6 o'clock. And I said it's pretty easy, maybe from my perspective, but it might not be easy for anybody, for someone else. And I say this because I have a strong mindset now. I know what I want in life. So even though sometimes your mind is telling you, say, I can't bother for go class, there's the strong side of my mind say, you have to do it. So it became a routine, and every time that negative thought came to my mind, I allow the positive side to overpower it and say, you have to do it because you want something in life. So it became a routine for me, and it's very easy. By the time 9 o'clock comes, I'm home and I'm enjoying myself, at least playing game or some videos. And by 10-11 o'clock, I'm off to bed.
Okay. So Shamar, how does it feel though, or what does it mean to you to be a role model for your community, Maxfield?
All right. As I mentioned before, things like this brings me fulfillment, because from a very young age, it was what I wanted. It was what I had dreamt of. It was what I visioned. Because as I mentioned before, I put all these burdens on myself. I always tell myself, I will have to be the change. I will have to do what's right to meet the change. And so whenever I go home, it's like I am walking and persons, giving me the hail. I remember when the news article, I went home like 2 weeks after because I did not want to go home. And I went home like 2 weeks after, and everybody called him the star. But you know, I'm a very humble person. I might treat
Never like the
myself.
attention.
Yes, I don't actually. Persons say I don't like compliments. I will take the compliments, but I don't know how to react to them because I don't know to handle them. So yeah,
Yes.
but you know, just to see that you are able to help other students or other young individuals in the community, because I understand what it takes to basically, you know, get up and say you are going to do this and you're going to make a change. I understand that. But a lot of students did not have that guidance or protection that I had. And you know, it is now my duty to at least, you know, go back there and actually help the other ones who have an interest in doing good in life. I also try my best to, you know, whenever I'm back there, I try to at least sit down a group of young boys and talk to them about my experience at university. And I think one thing that always lead young boys is the fact that I always tell them a lot of females are at UE.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of motivation to them,
Yes,
because
that will work.
yes, it will work. I am definitely sure of that. So I try my best to share my experiences with them. And you know, they're all amazed. And you know, it's a thing that I want to continue to do, because trust me. Yes.
Just talk to some of these youths, you know, some of these young men. Same
Yes.
place down at Maxfield, or those who are in similar circumstances that you are in. Just leave a
Yeah.
message for them.
Listen to your parents, obey them. And next thing is that read more. I had the opportunity, or I did not have the opportunity, I should say, to actually sit down and read books because I did not like them. But when I realized the importance of reading, I started to experience life outside of my community. I traveled Jamaica. I traveled around Jamaica and the world just by reading my books. I started to understand the economy. I started to understand people from a different economic background or ethnicity. And I was able to, you know, trying to drive my way of life into a more productive, a positive, and a strong mindset. And I want you young individuals to realize your purpose in life. I want you to realize your full potential. And you know, it is a utmost honor to be here on this show, and it's all as a result of the fact that I had to prepare myself for, you know, what was about to happen in the community. And I started that from a very young age. I wanted to realize that you can do it, and you know, it is time. You are the change in whichever family background you are from. You are the change in whichever world you are coming from, and focus on yourself. Do good, stay positive, stay humble, and work hard. Thank you.
And you're an example that it can be done.
It can be done.
It was great talking to you. I enjoyed talking to you too.
Thank you.
And boy, all the best with what you do. All the best at Jane.
I hope so.
I'll be following you.
Yes, we'll stay connected. I'm definitely happy to be here, and I'm grateful that you gave me the opportunity to share my experiences.